Okay, I'd like to call the May 1st, 2014 meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:02 p.m. First order of business, old business, application 2013-14-10, Rolling Meadows subdivision, 6 lots, and a 1.3 plus or minus acre open space parcel at 65 Mill Road, Assessor Map 29, Lot 4, R40 zone. Owners Henry P. Forte, applicant developer Ricky Construction Group Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, this item has been postponed, as I noted with various letters entered into the record briefly at the last meeting of April 17th. The applicant's engineer is here to further review some of the items that for possible discussion tonight. We don't anticipate the application being acted on tonight as a result of some of these things have to be evaluated by the commission. Okay. And at that point, they have given us, the applicant, an extension to the next meeting on May 15th. And that is the drop dead date of all possible extensions in which to act on this application. So the engineer had dropped off some information today. I'd like to, as a housekeeping practical matter, so that we don't miss entry into any of the new items that need to be put into the record, that I go through the entry of those items. Okay. And then we'll turn it over and the engineer will review some of the items under his exhibits, okay?
Okay, good.
Okay, so we had left off with quite a few things as a result of, it's quite a, okay, so the first item I'd like to pass out is a review, and I won't go into the detail of these individually until after the engineer does some of these, and then I'll bring up the rest of the items entered in. The first is a memo from Kurt Weiss, town engineer, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated April 8th, 2014. And this will be discussed with the commission after I do all the other ones with the applicant's engineer, okay? Next, I want to enter in the archaeological report, Phase 1, that is called a Phase 1 Archaeological Reconnaissance Survey for Rolling Meadows Subdivision, interim report by ACS, Archaeological Consultants. I'll pass that out to you also. There should be enough of copies. And I'll further discuss that, and the engineer can also. The next one I'd like to enter into the record is the North Branford Land Conservation Trust Incorporated report directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the open space area and their particular things that they would like to have and see in that area. Let me just pass those out. And that's dated April 29th, 2014. This should be enough.
Make extra copies of the map that they prepared would be helpful if I...
Well, that's coming next.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't...
I got a stockpile here, okay?
Sorry, no.
Okay. Here's one for you, Jim. Okay, and with that is the accompanying map that they've submitted with that. I'm going to pass out only 3 copies. this Good County Shield, okay? And that's a schematic proposal for the open space area from the North Branford Land Trust dated April 30th, 2014. Next are two final things from the applicant's engineer that was submitted today. I have a whole series of maps, but I'm going to just submit into the record the revised set of maps for the Rolling Meadow subdivision that was originally dated January 9th, 2014, revised to May 1st, 2014. So I'll give you 3 copies if you want more than that. Do you want a 4th copy? Because you won't have too much room, but.
Nope. I think we are good. We'll keep one.
And along with that, also, the applicant's engineer has submitted the Supreme Court of Connecticut land use court decision with the court case of Buttermilk Farms LLC versus Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Plymouth, and officially released June 30th, 2009. This basically addresses, and it's highlighted various items, which I'm sure the engineer will discuss with you as he reviews his documents. Right?
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay, I think, also, just to comment, this, which I told the engineer today, I had emailed you this, not this same document, but in this form, but what was published in the Law Journal for this court case as an attachment with your agenda for this meeting for those that had time to read that in advance.
Yep.
But here again, it will be taken up by, I understand, the applicant's engineer
Okay.
as it relates to one of the issues relating to revisions on the subdivision plan that the town engineer is requesting. So, with that to do, unless I've missed something else, we're, as far as any new exhibits, entering those in then. So,
Okay.
next
Thank you.
thing would be to probably let the applicant's engineer speak.
I agree.
And then what will proceed after that particular thing, although you've also been given a copy today when you came in, the land trust report and also their map. So
Right.
if you want to highlight that, or at some point we'll discuss that.
Mhm.
I don't know the sequence that you really want to start with.
I'll let
your-
you-
Okay.
Okay, for the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Mylone and McBroom. Our offices are located at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Ricky Construction Group. There's a few things I'd like to just expand on what Carol had discussed, at least in terms of the items that have been submitted. Particularly beginning with plan revisions. We do have a set of plans in front of you today that represent some tweaks to the plan based on the latest memo from Kurt Weiss, your town engineer. And the items that have been tweaked on that plan is specifically the location of the building setbacks on lots 4 and lots 6, which are abut the driveway, the access way for the interior lot. Mr. Weiss pointed out that we did not depict the adequate building setback from the access way to the interior lot. So we modified the plan to incorporate a 50-foot building setback. So the houses on those lots shifted slightly in some cases. Additionally, there was a concern that Kurt had when we met in the field some weeks ago about the grade or the slope in the right-of-way in the vicinity of Lot 1. There's a 4 to 6 foot grade change right from the paved portion of the right-of-way, or paved portion of the right-of-way to the edge of the right-of-way. We're pulling some of that grade back. Additionally, we added some additional notes about clearing of existing fences, gate posts, and brush within the right-of-way to provide for adequate sightlines from the proposed driveways. So the revisions are relatively minor in nature. And the reason why we waited till this point to issue them is primarily due to the fact that there was some concern from Dr. Bellantoni at the State Archaeological Office and also from Ms. Zeb regarding the archaeological findings that have occurred. I'm not sure where exactly, but in the vicinity of this proposed subdivision. And Mr. Bellantoni, or Dr. Bellantoni, had advised that archaeological survey should be performed. And it was Carol's thought that rather than have that be something that might be considered as a condition of approval, that should be undertaken before a decision was rendered by the commission, so that if there was any findings, that the plan could be revised accordingly, or certain areas could be protected if necessary. And the applicant, at his own expense, hired a local archaeologist out of Guilford. I believe they're called ACS Consultants or something along those lines. And they conducted a thorough review, archaeological reconnaissance of the property in accordance with state requirements and in accordance with Dr. Bellantoni's wishes. And I won't go into detail about their findings. It should be submitted. Is it submitted in their packet?
Mhm.
Yep. They essentially found nothing of note other than a piece of quartz, but it is their recommendation, which you'll see in the last page, that no further archaeological studies are necessary on this site due to the lack of any significant discovery.
And just to interrupt, the state archaeologist is going to confirm back in a later concurrence to the commission, so to that same conclusion.
Yep.
He's just been so busy with some other projects, especially in New Haven, if you've seen the paper. And he'll do that prior to the next meeting, so we'll have that issue resolved and finalized with a conclusion. I'm sorry, you can
That's okay.
continue.
So once we got the positive report from the archaeologist, we essentially had a green light to proceed. We compiled the revisions to the plan and issued revised drawings. Now, there are a couple items that, going back to some of the issues that Mr. Weiss had originally brought up with regard to drainage and road width and things like that, there was concern on his part that there is inadequate drainage along the roadway. In fact, some of the roadway drains onto this property presently. And he suggested or recommended that the applicant consider some drainage improvements in the road, both in the road and on the property, to mitigate some of those existing concerns, which the applicant agreed to do, and the revised plans that have been in front of this commission for a few months reflect that. Mr. Weiss also has a note that the roadway should be widened to 24 feet, particularly in the vicinity of lots 3 and 4 on the development. And it's been the position of the applicant that, given state Supreme Court cases, recent ones in particular, that it is outside of the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission to require a developer or to make off-site improvements, including in a public roadway, as part of a subdivision application. And given the fact that he's positively viewed some of the activities with regard to drainage, improving some of the existing drainage conditions on the roadway, he was not in agreement that widening the road is something that he should be required to do. And to that end, I've submitted with your packet tonight a opinion from the Supreme Court regarding the case of a subdivision in Plymouth that involved a 5 or 6 lots on an existing town roadway where the town Planning and Zoning Commission required sidewalks to be put in. And the case was, the application was denied because of the sidewalk issue, and it was appealed all the way to the state Supreme Court. And as part of their argument as to why sidewalks in particular for their subdivision were not or should not be required, is that statutes are very clear as to what cases a planning commission or planning and zoning commission can require improvements within a roadway, and is limited to those where a public or proposed street is to be constructed as part of the subdivision, which in this particular case, in this particular application, it was not, similar to our application in front of you. So there are a couple items that I did highlight that I thought would be useful for your consideration, particularly on page 4. And this goes into the larger argument about whether or not public improvements in a right-of-way should be required of a developer. The item I highlighted, I'll just read the record. More specifically, the plaintiff contends that although Section 825 of the Connecticut State Statutes grants a planning commission the authority to compel a developer to make off-site improvements to an existing road when the road intersects with a new road proposed by the developer, in the absence of such an intersection, the language of Section 825 limits the authority of a planning commission to regulate subdivisions to the land to be subdivided, which does not include abutting public streets that are outside the boundaries of the proposed subdivision. The plaintiff further contends that allowing the commission to require such offsite improvements under the guise of a general authority to improve public safety and health would exceed the authority that the legislature intended to bestow under Section 825 and would be inconsistent with the broader statutory scheme developed by the legislature with respect to the maintenance of municipal highways. And then further down, I highlighted a point from the Supreme Court where they say, we agree with the plaintiff. Furthermore, if you move to page 7, this again is the opinion of the court. It would be unreasonable, therefore, to interpret Section 825 so broadly as to include a general health and safety provision unmoored to the limited language of that statute, and thereby allow a town, through its planning commission, to avoid its statutory mandate under Section 13A-99 by shifting the obligation and cost of maintaining and improving its highways in a safe manner onto an abutting developer. Lastly, on the last page, page 8, section I highlighted, in light of the town's obligation to build and maintain the roads within its borders, however, and in the absence of a clear and specific statutory authority under Section 825, for the Commission to pass this burden onto developers with respect to improvements that are off-site, we conclude that it is appropriate for the town to bear this initial burden and not the developer. We've taken the position that we don't necessarily disagree with Mr. Weiss, that there are sections of the road that are narrow in width. In some cases, it's less than 24 feet. So we're not in disagreement with him that it perhaps should be widened, but we are taking the position that it's something that the developer, it's essentially not his responsibility. And as I'm not an attorney, that's just my take on the language of the case, and also in working in several other towns, they have taken this case under consideration and revised their subdivision regulations accordingly with respect to improvements on existing roadways. So there's that issue, which if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. But lastly, the last item I want to discuss is the proposed open space. We have, in discussions with the commission, indicated that we would prepare plans that had some delineation of the border of the open space parcel with proposed lot 6, which is the abutting proposed lot, with the intent, or with the goal in mind of providing a visual buffer or visual delineation of the border of the open space so that the owner of lot 6 wouldn't encroach onto the open space. And similar to another subdivision that's been approved in town recently, Shantz Farm subdivision, we incorporated 30-inch boulders at a minimum of 100-foot interval along that boundary, along with placing concrete monuments along the property corners themselves. Also, we have indicated that it would be the developer's intent to essentially rake and seed that portion of the open space that might be hayed for the neighboring farmer, who I believe has indicated that they have some interest in haying that property. Today we received a letter from the North Branford Land Trust and a map, which you have in front of you, detailing what they would like to see done with the open space itself. And I would think it'd be safe to say that the significant number of plantings that they're proposing is greatly exceeds what we had envisioned, or at least what we envisioned with discussions with the commission as to what the intent of providing some visual delineation of that line with the intent of preventing encroachment. It seems that the land trust has decided that the appropriate delineation would include essentially visually blocking the proposed lots from the open space itself. I haven't had a lot of time to discuss it with the owner and the applicant, but I have had some phone conversations with them, and it's their opinion that this is a very extensive suggested planting scheme, and it really wouldn't serve to further protect the open space any more than what we've proposed with the delineation of the boulders. Additionally, they have 4-foot boulders, which they're requesting, which is a pretty difficult item to come across and place on the lots. But with respect to some of the other items that they've requested, including loaming and seeding on the remainder of the open space, I would tend to characterize the applicant's position that that's along the lines of what they had envisioned. I would request that the commission consider not requiring any significant activity with regard to placement of soil or things of that nature in the wetland boundary. The deposition of soil within a wetland boundary is a regulated activity, and I would ask that simple raking and seeding in that area would be considered appropriate, just to limit any concern for filling in a wetland. But I'd be happy to have a discussion with the commission as to what their vision or what their thoughts are regarding the nature of the delineation between Lot 6 and the open space boundary. I would just add that I ran some quick numbers with one of our landscape architects, and this planting plan would cost in excess of $25,000 to $30,000 to install and implement. And it would entirely block the proposed lots from visually seeing the open space, and given the fact that it's just going to be hayed, knee-high grass from time to time, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to involve quite a lot of active use by the residents of North Branford.
Well, it also acts as a physical boundary too, because you're,
Oh, I understand that.
it's not just visual, it's
Right.
physical too.
And I think,
Physical is that you can still find yourself around
Yeah,
a
but
tree.
it keeps, it'll keep the, more or less the people.
well,
It's better than just putting a boulder here and there, in other
Well,
words.
yeah, I could see some
Unless you
trees,
put
but
it, yeah.
So what, I'm sorry, what is your proposal of
we,
boulders?
the plans you have are essentially, I took, we were the engineers for the Chance Farm subdivision,
Yeah.
and we took the.
Maybe if you go through the last page, which is a summary, the notes for the landscaping plan that they've submitted, that last page, maybe, do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Maybe that might be helpful to, in order to respond. I mean,
Well, I think.
unless you think there's some other way.
It's sort of a larger picture, I think, question in terms of, I don't, on the Chance Farm subdivision, there was some dozens of acres, I don't have the exact number in my head, of land dedicated for conservation and open space.
putting underwater.
And both the Wetlands and Zoning Commission deemed that boulders placed at regular intervals would be enough to provide a visual delineation so that there's no mistake about where that line is. And I believe what we've proposed meets that intent, that it would be clear to any landowner of Lot 6, and also clear to anyone driving down the street who's familiar with this development and familiar with the open space as to where that line is. And I think that providing a intense visual screen is excessive, considering that the goal is essentially to make sure there's no encroachment. It's just an awful lot of it's just an awful lot of landscaping, in my opinion, and also in
Your
the,
proposal is just the boulders then?
The boulders,
Put on
I think
center?
if there was some discussion or some give and take on some of the, on some trees, I'm sure, we'd be open to that, but I think some 63, I believe, or 60-plus trees, it's awfully intense, especially given that for a similar idea that the commission has in their regulations with regard to screening between an interior lot and a frontage lot, has a much less intense requirement, which we have between proposed lots 5 and 4 and 3. I think there may be ways to delineate that line appropriately without $30,000 worth of trees.
So is that all, that's all you're presenting necessarily formally, right?
That's a summary of the
Yep, okay.
revisions we've made, where we stand on some of the outstanding items. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to
Yeah.
take them.
Well, I would suggest they have a chance to read the full letter. Plus, if you say you're suggesting your applicant is willing to do some trees and some in the boulders, perhaps it might be helpful if the commission sees what your side is willing to provide, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the commission has the final say of
Of course.
either adjusting either one or coming up with what they feel meets the regulation. And I guess a further discussion, unless somebody wants to continue this discussion now, might be,
Has it been definitely decided that, who was going to take over this open space?
well, in this report, just the first paragraph
Yeah, first.
says, they're interested in assuming ownership and protecting the proposed open space portion of the subdivision. So, today I haven't had the chance to look at this either because we've been inundated with other issues. They show some typical
Yeah, I read that.
landscaping
Yeah.
treatment that's been done.
My question
Interior.
is, what is really the meaning of open space? Is it for, especially along the Farm River, that it's for the enjoyment of the townspeople eventually be able to walk or bike that whole area, right?
Well, the
The
definition.
Greensway, but I mean,
um,
the purposes of this, yeah, it's just this parcel, right, for the town.
And I would add that there is interest in the use of a significant portion of the open space for the purpose of haying, which will be the activity that would occur immediately adjacent to proposed Lot 6, which is why it's our take that, perhaps that area along Lot 6 is going to be limited in its usage for a good chunk of the year by the public, just because the grass at times could be full of ticks.
Well, let me just say, the subdivision's very clear on it in section 314, okay? And they give a certain disposition factors, which the commission in having official dedication of open space, okay? In determining the appropriateness of the open space. I had some dental work today, so I can't talk very well. The commission shall consider various factors like the open space plan, the conservation development, but the characteristics with respect to the following objectives. This is the key. The conservation and protection of wildlife and natural or scenic resources, including lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, stream belts, including wetland, aquifers, significant woodlands, stands of unique or scenic trees, particular trees of special size or typical unusual type, ridges, ravines, stone fences and walls, ledge outcroppings, and other unusual features. And then also the protection of historic or archaeological sites, the expansion of existing open space areas, and the meeting of neighborhood and/or community-wide recreational needs. So what we're talking about is a combination of not only just active recreation, but passive recreation, where the determination of that is based on evaluation of what is on that property and what the intention under our regulations of, which is the town plan of development. This here is highlighted as a stream belt area for the Farm River, a corridor, you know, for preservation. It also has some wetlands on it, and also the sloping area where the prehistoric crystal area, which was probably going to be used as part of stone implement making by natives at that period of time, other than Indians that we know,
My understanding
would have
was
been
that-
in this area.
Yeah, but my understanding is it was negligible findings. It was,
Well, it's,
they found
the-
one.
no, they only tested on the actual lot areas that are being used for the subdivision. They found the crystal on the slope of where this land is. The state archaeologist has asked for the location of these areas that were tested, of which is supposed to be part of this report, okay? So that, it happens to be on the ridge, if you can point on the map, it happens to be on this ridge here, which is at the beginning point of the open space. It's basically in here somewhere, right in this. If you look at the geography contours, you'll be able to see that area. So the issue here is, okay, they have a phase one and a more sophisticated phase two of the land area that's part of this open space area, which is more along the river, okay? So we know there is significant, near the river, prehistoric artifacts that were created from the findings that were found in the other surveys, okay? The fact that it had a phase two, this one that was done on the construction area where the lots are actually going to be developed, was only a phase one, and subsequently, they didn't find anything except that one crystal that could have been more on the edge of this because of the deep plowing. If you read
So-
all this stuff, you'll see that.
So we've had phase one and phase two on the other section?
Yeah, within that
In the
open
past.
space, within
In the
that
past.
open space, because of the state Mill Road project for the bridge.
Right.
And that's why you definitely want to keep this piece of land as open space, because it's got some archaeological.
No, I'm not arguing
Yeah, I was
open
gonna say,
space.
we're not
What I'm
arguing.
questioning is,
So,
what's the open space for? Is it for passive?
Well, in this particular case, I would have to recommend it's passive, because you don't want, you know, farming other, you know, with more plowing in this particular area.
Understand
That's
that.
one thing.
That,
And the town has not suggested that they wanted to have it, because that would be for probably open recreational, active recreational area, okay? They have the sports soccer field on the other corner down the street. That was open space, that was in, with the intention of having it active.
but
So-
is there supposedly a corridor being delegated at some point so that?
It's in our plan of conservation and development, I think, is to
Right.
eventually have this corridor, this greenway
And by
corridor.
keeping it in
can
this.
I ask a question?
yeah.
So is the use of the open space what we have to decide as
Yes,
part of this?
yes,
Okay,
that's
it is.
part of
It
your-
is use.
Your
The use.
jurisdiction,
So
when you
whether it-
look at.
Whether it be passive or active recreation
Correct.
is part of
Correct.
tonight, I mean?
Isn't it more concerned of the barrier?
That's where I thought we were going to, and now we're talking the use. And if
Well,
that's
she
what we need to
raised-
discuss,
She
that's
raised
fine.
even the intent of what the,
But I'm saying, is that part of our, when we review this, do we need to decide whether the land conservation has it become passive or active?
well, first of all, you're gonna have a condition of approval that's gonna say who this land will be turned over as
Okay.
part of
Yep.
this subdivision approval. okay, that the applicant has to turn it over. And the conditions will be that it's either a particular situation of what he might have to do as to putting in markers or whatever, okay? The other thing is, you will also then determine, just as you did in the Shantz subdivision, what type of activities would be allowed
Okay.
that's gonna
Okay,
be
good.
put in the deed, so that
Okay.
that
I didn't-
person
good.
then deeds it, which is going to be the information that this commission will settle on, that will be broadly defined in that condition of regarding the open space.
Makes sense.
Being subject to the review by the staff with the intent of what the commission
Okay.
wants.
I just wanted
and
to
have
clarify.
that document drafted so that the town attorney and the staff.
My
That's fine.
whole question is, is one area gonna lead into another area? Is there gonna be a section that, all of a sudden you're on a trail by the river and now you can't go there because,
Initially it will, but unless we do it now, we'll never be able to attach anything. So
well,
you have to
that's what I'm,
identify
that
this.
is my question,
Yeah.
you know, not to get it so that it's blocked off from maybe future, I mean, our whole intent was to be able to walk around the river and,
Well,
you know,
on the Shantz, okay, the open space would have provisions, and here again, it was going to be deeded to the land trust. The commission added open space conditions to have a public passive
Right.
trail along
Right.
the river at some
Okay.
point
well,
allowed
I just want to make sure
under
that
this
that's
land.
what we're sticking to here, because when I look here,
Well, it
I
will
mean,
be
they're
defined,
asking
yeah.
for
Mhm.
flowers to be right up to the edge of the river here.
But I think
Makes no
the
sense.
broader point is the point of the barrier to the lots, rather
Yeah, I
than
know
what
that.
that conservation land is gonna do. It's
I
this
understand- I
barrier.
understand that, and that's a whole different thing than what I'm talking about.
But flowers, it's like nothing compared to tree prices.
I'm not
Well, that's a
arguing about the
wildflower
trees.
ground cover mix. Here again, we can't, as a commission, you can't require them, the developer, to install
I'm not
a
trying to
trail. But
develop
at
it.
some point, the land trust would probably work with the town to establish a trail there. Probably there would be some grant money to be able to coordinate something that would be connecting with other pieces, okay? And just not to have that added into the transfer of the deed to define what those possibilities could be, would be very narrow and not visionary as to what the real accomplishment of this under the plan of development as, you know, a viable link to have people publicly be able to use the river, a walking trail, also doing any kind of fishing or a passive use to enjoy that area.
Well,
Just because we're deeding it, or you would be deeding it to the land trust, I mean, they have started to initiate a program and trying to establish walking trails. I mean, the president here is here, I mean, he can explain what, I mean,
I
here
think-
again, you know, the land trust is a conservation group to be the steward of holding public
I
land.
understand that. I just didn't understand when the land trust is asking for ground cover, flowers, some kind of wildflowers.
Let's do two things. Can we address what they propose in terms
Well, we're
of
not. I did think-
acceptable plantings? Because
I didn't think we were going to vote on that tonight.
No,
As
we're
far
not.
as I'm concerned.
No, we're not.
It's way
No, no.
too many trees, and it's an imposition on the
Hold on
builder.
a second. So right now, they just have boulders, the land conservation has their set of criteria.
They're
I
gonna
think
come
they're
back
willing
with
to
another-
do something maybe
Right, and that's
as-
what I understand, that
So
it's coming
let's
back.
can we let him present what their proposal Do you have that? You,
No, I actually, given,
It was
I
my
didn't have a chance
understanding that
to.
he's
Okay,
coming
I thought-
back with that when he talks to
Yep.
the builders or the owners.
Well, and before we conclude this item, if you want to digest this and then get something back from their side, we can email it to you so that the next meeting, everyone understands. But you can also hear from the land trust people that are present here that were involved in this, what they would like to comment on at this point anyways. And behind the reasoning, I mean, obviously, you haven't a chance to even look at this because it just came in
Well, I did
today.
read it over, yeah.
Well, and here again, I felt that at least we would have this start on the table to have some preliminary direction of where to try to start moving on this issue.
We already
And some comments.
have a defined a barrier, if you will, between the rear lot and the front lot.
Mhm.
Maybe we could use that as a model to show.
Well, the ones that are on the
where's
map,
that, Charlie?
okay, based on our regulation for rear lots,
This,
there's 19 of those shown on the map,
yeah,
okay?
everything.
But here again, when you look at their report, and I just looked at it now, this one here that they're citing that has mixed evergreens at 8 to 10 feet apart, staggered after about 12 years, is a very effective buffer. This happens to be on the hillside behind Big Y. I can recognize that, okay? And these two here happen to be in the Delongo subdivision of the street, okay? This one near the soccer fields were planted later than these, okay? And then this other one, I believe, it's obviously a corner street. I want to say it might be up in Northford.
Yeah,
Where?
the library, near the North Branford Library.
Well,
Yep.
why don't you identify
Condominium.
yourself since you did speak?
Well, so, okay,
Well,
I just, okay, that's fine. How did I?
well, the other thing is, here again, if you look at what they're suggesting on their summary page, they're talking about the areas, the upper part to be hayfield. I had kind of mentioned that upper part up to the service road, the gravel road. At least that could be the hayfield. And then the lower area, obviously, you don't want to do anything in there with hay, or here again, the point about putting more topsoil there along the river, that could be an issue.
So-
Until it gets stabilized.
I would just like to reiterate what I said earlier about placing fill, whether it be topsoil or otherwise, within the wetland area, is something that is considered something that would trigger perhaps a significant activity in the wetland areas. And that's something I personally would think it would be something that would be wise to avoid for a lot of reasons. But least of which would be to cause any concern from the Wetland Commission perspective, because I believe their recommendation as Conservation Commission was that the area should be left in its natural state. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carol.
Well, I think because it's been disturbed by plowing, because that area was plowed, it needs some stabilization.
Some seeding, yes.
Even the,
I would tend to agree with that, but deposition of
even
material.
the water company's review letter
Mhm.
indicated for some seeding
Seeding.
of all that.
Oh, and
area.
then that's not the issue.
Phil.
It's just the actual importation of material and spreading it then.
Well, the other problem is, this is a very poor area without topsoil because it was removed years ago. And I think to ensure that there's sufficient soil components to be able to have enough nutrients to grow a successful cover, that's a concern too.
Would it be
especially in
helpful if I
this
have
area.
the soil scientist to delineate the wetlands weigh in on the nature of what might be?
Well, that's in the record too. I mean,
Yeah.
that certainly can be looked at. But they did mention some of that soil was better than the other portion that is up on the upper slope of the gravel driveway. And that's been entered in the record. But I remember that because of the alluvial flooding from the river that's enriched that area with better soil. I think it's a Manchester composition.
That's the gravel, actually, the gravel material.
Oh, okay.
I forget what the nature, what the soil type was in the wetland areas.
Wilbraham?
Was it Bash?
I'd have to look in there.
Wetland soil was a Bash series, poorly drained wetland soil. So I would expect that the wetland areas might be better suited for just throwing down a conservation
Well,
mix.
I think what we need to do is just again review the inland wetland
So
agency and that soil report too, so. But
can
overall,
we
do you have any
discuss,
other direction?
can we, yeah, that's what I was, can we discuss plantings? Does it make sense to hear what they propose?
They don't have any proposals yet.
Yeah, they're at a later, the next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting, yeah.
Or like Carol said, she can email it.
I mean, if they want
Prior.
our suggestions, we could discuss that. I mean,
I think given the
boulders and
fact-
some trees
Yeah.
sounds like it would be the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
So Charlie had drawn to the fact that between the front and back lots, there's a plan. Does that make sense? Is that something
How
reasonable?
thick in nature, I don't see it. I don't know where you're talking about.
Between the two lots.
This one on this
Yeah.
page?
If I could reference you to the rendering.
Right.
On the
This
third
is a
page of
requirement
this.
Yeah, it just shows,
Yeah.
what are they?
It says landscape of
Those are usually white
They
pines.
use white, typically white pines.
white pine.
Those are planted in the DeLongo subdivision
Mm-hmm.
also. Well-
Doesn't say the species.
Oh, that's the 19 that you were
Yeah.
saying.
You should really
So,
state what they are.
I don't want to put words in everyone's mouth, but we're thinking, are we thinking boulders with some trees that
We'll let them come
that
back.
clearly delineate? I mean, just to give them some sense of things, right? And we'll wait to see what they say.
And the
Something
markers,
reasonable?
I think the markers for the corners that were proposed by the land trust might be worthwhile to point out that
Yeah.
that is the end of the open space.
And we do propose
Well,
concrete
that's
markers.
usually, that's a given, just to define the lots. I mean, you always have corner
Yeah,
pins.
but they have ones sticking out of the ground quite a ways.
Well, I think
in
that's what
their
they're,
suggestion from
yeah, there's one that's iron marker that's set in, which, that's a straight line, isn't it?
Straight line, yes.
I think it would be better suited to have a boulder in there, in the
Or
different
you're saying
points.
something a little different, that's
Yeah.
pretty clear that it's the end of the,
Mhm.
it's
Private
not, you're not
property
guessing if
versus
it's a
public.
boulder or the end of the lot, right? It's clear that it's,
If
this
you
is
can-
a stanchion, it's something.
Yeah,
If you're
two
gonna
marker-
have a delineation line there, I mean,
two marker pipes at the property lines, located per the landscape plan, are to be 6-inch diameter galvanized steel painted green with a fence post top cap. They're to extend 36 inches above finished grade and set in concrete, minimum of 30 inches below grade. This would make just being obvious, because the standard markers, they'll be overgrown in no time.
Concrete doesn't allow
So-
you to take it out.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That we wait to hear back from them, that's kind of our feeling on things, and we'll wait to hear from
Are
them?
you
Give the
thinking-
applicant a hint that what we're,
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm trying to do.
are you thinking just trees or boulders and trees, which?
Boulders and trees, right?
Boulders and trees.
Boulders and trees.
How long is it on the map, as far as that
The length?
line? I know there's a slope in part of the area. It goes downhill,
It's approximately 270 feet long.
270. What page is that on?
It's on sheet, the subdivision map, which is the last sheet in the set, sheet 1 of 1.
But, you know, the one that shows the contours too. Do you have
Oh,
a
yeah.
contour one that shows the line?
The sheet SP, which is the third sheet in the set,
So-
shows the topography.
Okay, you see that. You proposed 3 boulders in that area. One that was, I don't have You're looking at SP sheet. It's 40 scale. Okay, the first one off the front of where the right-of-way is about 38 feet, 40 feet.
40 feet, yeah.
And then between the to the next one is 100 feet. And then the third one is 100 feet from there too, which that third one is approximately 40 feet away from the rear property line. If you look how the hill slopes downward.
It's approximately 270 feet, and they're saying this one, which is a better border, a minimum of 27 trees would be a minimum that they'd be able to put with the border for this better
Oh, okay.
delineation of the site.
Well, I think one of the concerns of the land trust, and they could probably stand up and view it, is when you look at this plan SP, you see how close the proposed house is on lot 6. It is roughly 25 feet from that line, okay? And then you have a little bit of a grading, you see that, okay? I think probably the issue here is the impact that house has to the open space. And I think their concern is, will it be
8 feet apart.
a negative to, the viewing of this as, more of a passive area for people to enjoy. But clearly, there needs to be some kind of vegetation there to help screen that, and also define that this party on lot 6 won't be encroaching in that land area on the other side of the lot line. I don't think boulders is enough to just
No,
do that.
So, I don't know if you heard the discussion we had.
Mhm.
I think what we'd like to see for next time, we've kind of given our suggestions. We're not
Mhm.
going to tell you exactly, but our suggestions, boulders, trees,
Okay.
reasonable, appropriate to provide good barrier and screening.
Mhm.
We'll let you come back to us,
Very good.
right?
Sounds good.
Else?
Well, the concern has been in other open space that was passive, deeded as passive open space, and also was deeded to the land trust back in the 90s. Durrell Farm is one. There's been a lot of encroachment, people going behind their rear lot where they know their lot ends, and further carving out more of the wooded or vegetated area and putting tool sheds and all kinds of other stockpiling of, wood for their wood-burning furnaces and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Dump their
you
grass
know,
clippings.
the fact that you have to really define that boundary is an important factor, since based on past experience.
Yeah, we're
So-
going to let them come back
And
to us.
the fact that,
then we'll see what
you
they
don't
say.
want this gentleman that owns the adjacent lot encroaching, plus you don't want people that might be using the public when they have walks or whatever, going over into the other property of a private property owner. So it works both ways, but,
No, I'm not denying that at all. I just thought that the proposal of that many double trees, if you really are sectioning something off, that's fine, but I just think it's a little overkill for that area.
okay. Well, do you want to hear anything from the land trust?
I would.
Or you want to wait until we take this up again?
Are they coming, will they be back at another meeting?
Well, are you going to be able to do something within a week's time?
I would think so, yes.
And what we'll do is, besides scanning it in and emailing it to you, we'll also give it to the land trust so that they can further comment what they think, since they're the party that's going to be deeded. And, you know, ultimately, your decision, I'm sure that's not going to be too much of a factor. I mean, they obviously want the land. But, you know, there's got to be something that the commission feels comfortable in approving for the developer to do. I mean, so, you know, does someone else have anything other than that to say? I mean, is that something that sounds
I would
reasonable?
like to just hear from the land trust that they will be providing that pathway somehow, you know, so that one is going to lead into another. So if they want to explain that to me, I just appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you want to make any comment about if the provisions of the deed that is going to be deeded to you from, as required under this commission approval, whether or not you have any objection of any future passive recreation use of a walking trail along the river?
No, my name is David Sargent, I'm president.
Yeah, can you just identify
sorry,
yourself?
Just step up to
Yeah.
the microphone if you don't mind, thank you.
Good evening, my name is David Sargent, I'm president of North Branford Land Conservation Trust. We think it's an extremely scenic area of town, we want to preserve that scenicness, whether it's a trail in the future or something that we want to keep that as an open space according to the town's plan as a greenway. And as the chairman mentioned, you have to take things pieces at a time in order to do this, so preserving this one piece. And to us, the purpose of the border that we described is multifold. One is a permanent thing that, you know, trees fall down in time, but you want something there to prevent encroachment as well as to protect the property owner of the developed site next to it. The visual barrier is important to us, extremely important, because nobody wants to be hiking next to a house with somebody looking out all their windows and so forth. So all the different things that you can do on that property, from bird watching to fishing to walking to just, there's a beautiful dam. It's a 1600s dam right across the street, Rogers Mill Dam. And if you ever walk down that section of the road, it's beautiful. So we want to sort of just screen off the housing from that section, keep that pristine, let the river flow, let the birds chirp, and let it look nice. That's our objective. So, however, and the land trust will hold the property in perpetuity as open space. It will never get built on, developed. And however it matures in the future, whether it's a trail or just completely passive for fishing or walking or just bird watching, that's the way it will be.
Okay, I must be thick tonight. That last statement it just made. So right now, when you get all through with all your landscaping and, you know, everything, if you want to go down there, as the public wants to go down there to the river, can you walk along there, or will at this point be not available?
Well, it's completely open to the public. All of our land is completely open to the public. Right now, what we've done is we've sort of struck a deal with the Pages to hay it. What we want to do first is take the cornfield, which is unstable, and stabilize it. So the purpose of the wildflowers down in the wetlands by the river was simply to stabilize that area in the least invasive way to do it. The purpose of haying was recommended from the Water Authority and I think Inland Wetlands, because they said that's the least, Carol can probably tell you more about it, but it was the easiest way to just stabilize the property. 10 years from now, we don't know what that will be, whether it'll be hay or not, but at least it'll be stabilized for now. And
So you're saying right now it isn't stable?
correct. At
I
least
haven't
that's
been
my
down there.
No,
It's just a cornfield.
It's
It's
very
exposed.
rotted.
A lot of exposed
Okay.
earth.
Stable at all.
Okay.
If it's not planted, it will completely erode.
Yeah, I just hadn't been down there, so I haven't visually seen what it is now, so I wonder why you're saying it's not stable. I don't know whether I got my answer or not, but I'm gonna go along with it.
I suggest you read through what we wrote. It all seems to make sense.
I did read through it, and as I say, my biggest concern is that we have in the past had open space that it doesn't do any good to the public. I want to make sure that whatever we're doing on the river, eventually, you know, not 10 years from now, but maybe even 2 years from now, will be available for
Right.
people.
And-
And if it's planted with flowers, how's anybody going to go down there and fish?
Okay, so the flowers is just a ground cover. When it's as Carol mentioned, it's just, and the
It could be
engineer.
like a combination of clove.
Yeah, it could be anything that's just something to stabilize the
Mixed
soil. We don't
with-
really.
It's good.
What they're referring to is a native wildflower ground cover mix, which is essentially a seed cover that is low maintenance and doesn't result in the type of growth that would, you know,
It looks
it's
like,
not it's not planting flowers per se. It's considered a wildflower mix.
looks like a
And we-
hayfield
we
with
have-
It's seed
flowers in
mixture.
it.
Yeah.
That's all.
We have here one of the neighbors who actually owns the mill, which is probably one of the oldest structures. The dam is one of the oldest structures in town. People stop in front of that mill to take pictures all the time. And they do it because the entire area, I used to live in North Haven. I used to walk from North Haven all the way down there just because it was just such a beautiful area. So we want to preserve, you know, it's a viewscape. If you're standing at the dam, taking a beautiful picture of the dam, and you turn around, there are just houses all over the place. It's not as, you know, it's just an intrusion into the scenic area of the area.
I think to your point too, this is pretty unique because it's pretty accessible. Some of these
Very accessible.
open
It's
space
right on the
we
road.
have, they're in the backside of
Yep.
development and they're hard to even get to.
Yeah, I mean, they're worth
This
it,
is,
really.
this
People
is,
stop
there's
here all
a
the time to just
a
look and
cross
take
field
pictures.
here,
Well, as I say, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I
very
just,
accessible.
I just, in my heart, I have to make sure that when I'm approving anything, that it is, that the public is in mind of what it is, not just something you're gonna stamp
Right.
an approval on and then later say, oh gee, what did we do? You know, that's all.
The land trust is the public. We are the people. We're all volunteers.
Yeah.
We're here to just preserve
No,
the
I
open
understand
space in
that,
town.
but you know what I mean.
Well, the other thing is the mix will probably give a little cover to the wildlife that will use that area. And, you know, here again, it'll be a sufficient cover for them too. Because I'm sure there's habitat there. Do you want to, there's another member
Yeah.
that wants to.
You can speak to the habitat, that's for sure.
Identify
Just-
yourself.
Yeah, you just have to come up and,
I can answer your question. And we're
just your name and address and who you are and.
Lindsay Suter, 16 Mill Road across the way. And there is an easement, there's a road there now that people use daily, the fishermen and so forth. So we don't have to put in any path at all. It's there already and it's part of the agreement for taking this over is to maintain that access. That's for the Pages. They have a ford, you know, across the river down by their place, and when it floods, like today, and if you've driven down there, in fact, I gotta get back home and make sure that I haven't swept away. They can get around to their cornfield, which is in the back, which parenthetically has also been, they've sold their development rights back there as well. So that's gonna remain agricultural in perpetuity as well. And this is, the idea is that that was a nice connector to it, literally and figuratively.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there's
Okay.
nothing that doesn't say that you could apply for some grants, tree grants,
That's
to
right.
put, just, you know, add additional plantings that further make that area a little bit more denser and do fill in of what ends up being what the commission ends up finally deciding. So, I mean, you know, that could be another thing that, you know, can be done at a later point too, obviously. I mean,
Okay.
but
That's-
there are
that's good.
there's some leeway in the provisions of the regulations to allow 4 inches of topsoil and some trees, okay? So I guess it's the issue of what that number should be based on.
That was very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, you've
You've heard the land trust. I think you've heard our concerns, opinions, so you'll come back to us with a proposal.
Yes, we will.
That's hopefully reasonable to all, or many,
Look like a
and
dump.
we'll go from there. Is it possible, so everyone, hold up, so I was gonna ask, I don't know exactly who's this, so this whole idea of language about the use of it,
Oh,
is
I
that
would have
something you
something-
could craft for
Yeah,
us for next time?
That's what we did the last time.
Okay, good, yeah, because
So,
I'd like to have that
In
next time to
advance.
say,
Yeah.
okay, this is reasonable, it's gonna be passive, whatever, so that would be helpful.
Well, part of it was too, I was waiting to see what the land trust was going to
Yep.
suggest, because obviously, we've had some heavy discussion
Mm-hmm.
with them, and discussion on trying to possibly, and we've discussed it in the commission meeting too, Cave Field.
Yep. So I would just, if we don't mind, Commission, I just, so this Kurt Weiss letter, I just want to make, I started checking off things as you said you addressed, but I want to make sure I'm clear what you've done. So the setbacks, those are done. And the next point was the street trees should be shown.
Right.
Was that,
I'm sorry I didn't bring that up. That goes back to our original comment letter, and again, that sort of all ties in with the waiver request for the sidewalks and the curbs and all that. In this particular case, the subdivision regulations have street tree requirements, but we're actually removing trees that are, in this case, right on the right of way, but they will be within the right of way when we revise the line itself. But because we're on the inside of a curve, all these lots will, a street tree requirement would incorporate trees all along this boundary. And that would present a sightline concern for any lot looking left or right as it looks for vehicles coming around that curve. So we mentioned in the previous letter that we're requesting a waiver of street tree requirements because of the fact that in order to prevent any safety issues for the lots or driveways that they not be included. So that's where we stand with that.
okay, has Kurt was here last time, so he's heard that, right? So he knows about this? I'm just curious to get his opinion on that.
Well, unfortunately, he's gonna be on vacation in the next meeting, so I will make a note to make sure he responds in the
Yeah,
letter
maybe
to
just-
you,
yeah.
okay?
Does that make sense? Because Kurt, I just want, Kurt brought it up and I trust his evaluation of that. Then the paved portion, okay, we've talked about.
Similarly with CLCB
safe
3,
roads.
catch basin 3, we proposed just off the pavement. He was hoping that a widened road would be able to incorporate that structure. I think given the, and this is something I could work out with him. I mean, obviously he wants the road widened, and that's something that we've already sort of discussed a little bit. If the road's not to be widened, then it's my opinion, and I don't know if Kurt would agree with me or not, but that catch basin being located slightly off the road, being able to capture any sheet flow that comes off the road currently and direct it to the structure would be perhaps more appropriate than something with only 10 feet of curb along the edge of the road itself. So that's something I'd be happy to discuss more with Kurt.
Yeah,
But
I would appreciate that.
and numbers, the next number, I think it's sort of an advisory comment. He's mentioning that, that depending on how these ultimately get graded out, there may be some potential to trap water on some of the lots, so that when the individual engineered site development plans come in, that'll have to be something that we review or he reviews. And that's typical of any final development plan for a lot, that that the grading plan is suitable or sufficient. So I think that comment's sort of advisory. Similarly, the last comment, we did add a note on the plans to the effect of his comment, and that's appeared in previous comment letters he's also issued, and I think I would characterize that as advisory as well. But we did add notations on the plans to
Yeah.
reflect that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other discussion, Commission? Nancy, Fran? Anything?
No, on Kurt's recommendation of the road widening, I assume that the contractor's not going to have to do that, right?
Well,
Well,
from that.
from the highlighted
legal-
portions,
yeah,
kind of,
From the.
I want to look
court
at this
case.
more, but
I mean, it looks like
I
we
didn't get a chance to look at
don't have the authority to make them do it, and it'd be the town's problem if they think the road should be widened.
Well, that section under, that's cited 13, under the state statute, somebody, I don't have the thing in front of me here. That 13-something, maybe it's in here. 13A-99 is a section that has the town doing improvements on an unimproved road that then is, the cost is assessed to all the adjacent property owners along that road. And it's just like putting in a sewer line and then assessing with sewer assessment for like 10 years. But it's the mechanism that allows a town to charge back an assessment to the adjacent property owners along that strip of area that's being on the road improvements, to charge back some of the cost or all the cost. I don't think the town's ever done that. Here again, I'm
I
not
don't know if
sure.
it was a
I mean,
property
Kurt's
owner,
been here
anybody.
27 years. I don't know if we ever had an issue where the town improved its own roads.
The
In some
town did improve
cases,
their own roads?
I don't think they've ever assessed back the
No.
property
assessment.
owners.
I don't think so.
I mean, they have improved under improved roads.
Right.
But I don't think they've ever gone to that extent of assessing the property owners to help defer the cost.
Okay.
But that's what this court's case says, that the town has a responsibility to
You like to do
improve
it.
their own roads
Right.
and maintain them.
Yeah, right. That's all I'm
So.
saying.
Well,
even
the
if,
only other
even
thing,
if, yeah,
the only
even
other
if
thing
development adds additional stress to that road,
yes,
doesn't
that's
matter.
what this
Yeah, I know,
court
yeah.
case says. The only other thing, if you want to ask the town attorney to look at this and try to get back legal opinion before the next meeting, since we have a drop-in date for taking action on this.
Well, since Kurt has asked for it, and he hadn't read this,
Yes, he was given a copy. This was from one of the other meetings in which it was raised by the applicant's engineer, and
well, I think it would
I
be-
downloaded a copy, and he was still very adamant in saying that this was due to public health and safety,
Who said
because,
that?
Kurt Weiss,
Kurt, yeah.
because it
Well, then I
was,
definitely think that we should bring it up to our attorney and get it settled that way, what he thinks, because
Uh-huh.
that's what we said.
eventually it's
That's
gonna
what we
have to
said
go to
last
him.
time.
Huh?
I think that's what we said last time.
We did?
I think so.
I think you mentioned
Yeah.
the possibility of getting, but you didn't
But it
actually
didn't happen. So maybe it'll
confer
happen.
together to have
Yeah.
a consensus to say, yes,
Okay,
let's
so
do
I
it.
think we should do it. Everybody else agree?
Yes.
Is everyone,
You know, just to
Of the
clarify
same.
it,
I think,
Okay.
and I think a brief, almost yes or no. We don't need a dissertation.
He's gonna give you a dissertation if you like it.
You gotta find
Is-
somebody else to blame.
Is it allowed or not?
I just have a question on the tree sightline that he was talking about. If the town has an easement on the road so far back, if, say it's 12 feet from the road, how would that interfere with a visual, not putting trees near the street, but putting them the 12 feet back? I don't understand how the end of a driveway would impede your sight line if you had a line
the
of trees.
town has a 50-foot right-of-way. And this tree requirement is placed 5 foot from the boundary of that 50-foot right-of-way. However, the actual paved road is
Yeah.
32 feet. So you've got
So you
at
have-
least 10 feet
Right.
of shoulder that, plus the 5 feet from the
But he's-
property line.
But they're
So you-
saying not to put the trees up, and I'm saying to put the trees up.
Well, I think he's looking at the requirement under the subdivision regulations. That, that's a mandatory thing that's required, has been, unless the applicant asks for a waiver of some of these items. Now, like the curbing and other issues, okay?
It's a good point,
But that's
because
what
I
he's-
think we've had other developments where we've said that, like a deciduous, because all you really have is a trunk of the tree, you know, when it grows. And if it can be set back,
You're
Right,
at
and the
the,
only
you're at the
reason
edge of the road and the trees behind you, and
Right.
most of the trees up
So-
in the air, and you
well,
just have the trunk. You don't have an evergreen.
Right. Well, the reason I'm saying it is like, we have a dead maple tree down close to the road, and it's really on the town property of the road, and it's no obstacle of visual
Yeah.
pulling out into the street. That's the only
We've
point
had-
I'm bringing
yeah.
up.
Well, obviously, the fact that there's a request for the waiver of this, okay? Usually, if you can remember, if you've been here on those kind of things, that we had these same issues of a subdivision, usually do the waivers first, and then either approve them or not approve them, and then you go into the vote of the requirements, of which usually, you know, the standard one is about the trees, and curbing and lighting and that kind of thing. So I think the discussion of this is gonna be important now to determine whether you think this is a good idea to waive or not to waive. If you want Kurt to respond on that one
we had said we
too.
want Kurt to look at that.
And I would just add, as I mentioned before, we're specifically taking down trees that are potentially a visual block to ease any sightline concerns that are out there now. That's something that Kurt had requested or required of us, and which we complied with in the plan, so.
Are those shown on your drawings anywhere?
Existing
Yes.
trees aren't
Yes.
strategically placed. You have the ability to strategically place them where they wouldn't be visual. I mean, you're taking down things that have been there, so they're not in the ideal location. What we're saying is you have the ability to put them in an ideal location that meets this requirement and also meets the sightline requirements.
That's under,
provide
that's
sightline.
under 306.
So I'm
About
just
trees,
kind
yeah.
of responding to your comment. That-
I'd be happy to talk about Kurt, get his opinion on it too, if that would be useful.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on,
So we're saying the town attorney then for this, right?
Yes.
Charlie, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay, sounds good. And then this, we might have the state archaeological,
yeah, we'll get the final letter
Person.
from the state archaeological expert to conclude that there's no other issue.
okay, anything else? Doug, Nancy? Right? Okay.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so you're gonna continue this item to,
We'll
the next
continue to
meeting.
May 15th. All right.
Oh, yeah, let me just.
Oh, yeah, take your time.
Okay, go on to the next one.
Okay, next order of business is under new business. It's a properties owner request for limited seasonal outdoor seating for plaza patrons at Whitewood Commons, 2341 Foxen Road, map 41, lot 67, D and E. Owner, Overt Properties LLC.
Okay.
Take it out.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Rose.
Let me
Okay.
just say, item 3A and 3B are things that came in, let's see, actually on Monday. And I thought, even though it didn't need to be a revision to these properties as a complete revised site plan or whatever, I wanted to run this by you informally to see if, you know, you had some concurrence to be able to do it in that manner, because it's not really an issue. You know, the other factor is, we were waiting to, after I went and took pictures of these two sites, let me just give you an overview. I then realized there were issues involved that would have to be reported to the wetlands for you to even take any further action to try to do this if you concurred tonight. So I ended up, they had a special meeting, and I reported this on Tuesday to them under my zoning, not zoning, but wetland enforcement section. Okay, these two properties are here. The first one we're talking about, and then this other one, which is the Dalton's Plaza.
Oh, don't.
And unfortunately, I haven't even been able to further get back to the first item, which is this, I think it's Brookside. This is where Kate's Kitchen is, and it's on the corner of Whitewood Lane.
That's where Whitewood is?
This request was made by the owner of the plaza to the zoning enforcement officer over a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. And I just heard about it on Monday when the woman called me to say that he had told her that she needed an A2 survey to then go before the commission with an application for this request. What she was asking for was outdoor tables, limited seasonal use, two picnic tables, and I've added some other things I suggested. And it's in this area, hold on a minute. We've had problems because Homeland Security had alerted us yesterday that there was concern that there was going to be hacking into a government website, so we had to shut down and the use of some of this. So consequently, then I tried to unload some of these photos. This is generally the area. They had cut some trees to the side of their property to make an area. There's a front picture of the plaza.
What's the business?
They have, I had a picture
Millwork.
of,
This is
the other thing is,
millwork
here it
business.
is. This is the plaza.
The one that
They've
they wanna
got
put
the
the outdoor
cigar
seating in.
store, Kate's Kitchen,
Isn't
Oh,
that
Kate's
the
Kitchen?
Chinese
Kate's
place.
Kitchen.
Restaurant.
This is where
Oh,
they're
is
going to
it?
try
Oh, I guess
to
it's for
put
the
this.
deli.
I'm sorry I'm not more prepared, but
Yeah. no,
the
pretty
system
much.
kept on knocking off the camera. I couldn't unload these pictures only until late this
It's
afternoon.
not even graded, like it's, right, is it?
Well,
flat?
they
But
just
that's
took
across the
Flat
down,
here, but it doesn't look flat here.
This one's across the street.
it's not
Yeah,
flat.
but that's.
Yeah.
So they're gonna put
But
picnic tables?
I'm not
Okay.
sure where exactly they're gonna put it. Unfortunately, she left for the day today when I tried to reach her.
Really?
This is the area where they've done some clearing, okay?
Yeah.
Right in here. The one reason why I talked to the wetlands, because
Yeah, you can
this,
see.
even though this doesn't have any wetland, it's got a water course that
Mhm.
flows down across the street into Longer Brook. The wetlands is really into the rear. If you can see this other small
probably
sketch,
underwater, isn't it?
this is where the wetland is off-site, but it's on the site, okay? So, the wetland agency last night said they had no problem with having 2 picnic tables, okay? So if you want to wait and hold off and delay another 2 weeks on this, I had asked the owner, can I have your attention,
guys,
please?
hold on a second.
I asked the owner if she would, on Monday, if she would give me a statement of use as to what she was requesting. And last Friday, I had said, well, I'll try to see if we have any base map of the original development, okay? The other one that is down the street that I'm gonna discuss, I had found a base map in 1955. So this one here, I never had any time, because we had staff out, and there was limited coverage this week. So what I'm trying to say to you is, if you would like me to get more detailed information directly from her, and you need to have that in order to act on this, to see if you want, I was hoping to get her to have, just on this map I just gave Bill, on our GIS, which here again, the manager was trying to download it on his site too, because it was kicking off. I could not get a photo until.
So it's like on the side of the building is where
Yeah,
she
it's where I
wants it.
put the
Yeah, the
axis.
land, no, but
Yeah, you should
you
look at
you can
this.
see it on here.
It's where that cleared area is.
Do you want
Yeah, on the
pass-
side of the whole
Yeah.
complex.
My understanding is, you
2
know,
picnic tables.
somehow they'll put it right into that area and fit it in.
Limited seasonal use, 2 picnic tables, a trash receptacle.
I'm suggesting a
Container with
trash
covered-
receptacle.
oh, you're-
Yeah, with
that's
the
you,
last
okay.
2 are what I'm
Okay.
suggesting.
And a cigarette disposal container.
Yeah.
Here, do you want to pass these out? You know, if you want to wait and see, the only thing is wetlands, we're concerned about a trash container. Obviously, this woman said she was doing it for her tenants, for people that wanted to smoke a cigar outside.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're gonna have that, you don't want them throwing their butts, on the ground next to a brook.
Who, I don't
So
know.
it's their
This is a concern of mine,
employees.
but, well,
Yeah.
yeah, so, last time, who regulates, who uses this? You know, you get a bunch of kids
Right,
coming
exactly.
around just hanging out and.
Well,
but
you know, here
'cause there's
again,
like
I said,
fourth
who would
floor.
this be
Destroying the
for?
place.
You know, put that in your statement of use. Well, for my tenants and their customers.
It's
And
right on
then
the
if
roadside.
somebody else from somewhere else wanted to go and sit there, I said, well, you're gonna start an issue of trash.
Yeah, that's so then.
And, you know, even the wetland people said, well, you've got to make sure if you do, they didn't have any problem with the picnic tables, but they also said, you've got to have a covered trash container, because if people bring out some of the takeout of the deli sandwiches and eat there, where are they going to throw it? If it
Right.
doesn't have a covered top with a slit that you can throw the stuff in, it's going to be all over the place. And I said to her, you know, are you going to create a nuisance for yourself
Yeah.
that you're not going to be able to maintain?
That's right, you know, I don't know if this is a big deal, I don't know how I feel too much about it, but I mean, if it's like my business is here and it's my picnic tables, when I see people, I'd be like, hey, you know, this isn't a place to loiter. If there's a strip
'Cause it's-
plaza and there's 3 businesses using it, and how is that regulated? I mean, how is anyone gonna control who's
Well,
using it and sitting there?
and usually when approvals are
Trashing it.
made, there's something about outdoor thing. You do it under that special use for
No, I
that
just mean,
food
I'm
service.
just making a general statement that it's not the seating for a specific business even. It's the owner's doing it so all the tenants can use it. So there's no direct ownership of any of these to kind of regulate who's using it. And
Yeah.
Is that a residential
It's
property?
right in the front.
Next to it, is that
Yeah.
residential
No,
next to it?
that's in a business two zone.
It's a house now.
A business 1 zone. No, it's a vacant piece that goes
Oh, it's
back.
vacant?
It's like 100 foot. If you
This
look at
one.
that map,
Oh, okay.
wherever
This
that
right
map
next
is.
door to it.
um,
I know you would think they would just want to put a couple picnic tables in the back that they could use for
Yeah.
outdoor
Yeah.
use, rather
it
than
for
up near the
patrons or-
street.
Well, in the back, they improved with a paved parking area for unloading.
Oh, so that's
And there's
not-
and then there's some fencing that separates their lot to the other user that's behind on Whitewood Lane. I just don't want to, I don't think I have the authority to grant them to put picnic tables there. And, you know, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if you then saw it, you'd say, well, this is a violation, we didn't approve it, or whatever. And, you know, maybe it's a matter of, does this open the door for
Yeah.
other users? Initially, when she talked to the zoning enforcement officer, I think it was a month ago or so, she wanted, the zoning enforcement officer told me briefly that she wanted to put it in the pedestrian sidewalk area in front of all the stores, and more specifically in front of the cigar shop, which the sidewalk's only like 8 feet. How do you fit any tables? And yet you have tenants walking down and clients walking down to the other parking that's around the end of the
Did
area,
she,
okay?
did she clear all this, or is this the way it is?
Yeah, she cleared it with the intention of that, she figured she'd put her picnic tables there.
See the drainage.
Yeah, no, I see that, but, I mean, is she,
And she
was
went
she
ahead and
planning
do it.
on landscaping this, or
That I don't know.
I
I
mean,
have no idea, because
it was
here
better off the
again,
way it was than
here
it is
again,
now? It's a
I had
mess
asked her
now.
to do the statement of use and get it to me. I said I would put it on the agenda Monday, that I, you know, even I wasn't supposed to, agenda was supposed to be done last week,
Maybe,
and,
I'd be just curious to see who,
do you want more questions from her and
I mean,
answers?
I certainly
Like,
wouldn't
who's
want
using
this left this way if we decided that it was okay for the picnic tables. I mean, is she planning on putting fill and cleaning it up, planting seed? Does she really want to do all that for
Yeah.
a picnic table?
it
Well,
just seems,
I
to
asked,
me, it seems,
you
it's
know,
like
I
it's not.
asked Wetlands what their concerns were, and I said, you know, obviously, who knows, she might do stumping there, and you're right, next to the stream, it's active stream that goes into Monger Brook. And so they said, well, she's probably just gonna leave it the way it is and put the tape, but that's an assumption on their
Yeah.
part, so.
That's,
Maybe it makes sense for her to show up so she can answer
Mhm.
any questions.
Well, I just want to make sure we're on the same page of, if you're going to do something, you have all the information. Well, now that if that's the consensus, that's good, because then we know exactly the framework in which she needs to go forward. I don't think she needs a formal application, but.
what's the consensus, that she come and present? Yeah, she gives us an
Okay.
idea of what she's talking about.
Yeah,
I'd like
the
to know on the businesses, I mean, I kind of see what they are, but, I mean, is
Okay.
it- did they
Chinese
request this?
restaurant, a deli,
Yeah, okay.
Here again,
I'd be curious,
I
do
would
they
know
have
all that
indoor-
information if I was the one that
Yeah.
had been dealing with her from
Did they
square
have,
one.
do they have indoor seating already? It's just overflow?
Well, the
So there's no
Chinese,
seating and this is gonna be the seating in the
well,
summer?
in
Anyway,
Kate's
we don't
Deli,
have to go,
there's.
I'm just saying,
there's-
things
yeah,
like that,
sitting.
we'll ask
Okay,
her when she's here.
okay, that's
All right,
in
so-
one plaza. Down the street, in the Dalton
want me
Plaza,
to-
it's called Brookside.
Do you want me to read what it is?
You want to read that in?
So the next order of business, property owner's request for replacement of 2 existing trees blocking visibility of freestanding plaza sign with year-round landscaping bed of boxwood, evergreen, and flowering shrubs on each side of a sign at Brookside Plaza, 2429 Foxen Road, map 41, lot 64A-1, Capwood Associates LLC.
Okay. This was a result of the owner responding back to me because I had a call from an adjacent property owner along the side that the brook that runs again into Monger Brook, another tributary of it. And there was trash in that area. Otherwise, the back where all the dumpsters are, that's a drive-through, and also overflow parking for all her tenants, including Dalton's, that's used, was very clean. I took some photographs and did a letter, you know, suggesting that because of wetlands, that the concern was to clean that up. She responded back, and in that conversation, she said, yes, she's gonna have a groundskeeper start doing that. But in the same situation, she asked, well, and this was on Monday also, she requested, since the two trees, which are similar to the trees that you saw in this other plaza, she told me these were trees that the town requested. They had been planted for part of improvement of the treescape for Foxen Road in this area. And so that this property owner and the other property owner had agreed to. And you can see in the other picture that I have, there's one here somewhere. This is the one that's in the first one that you saw. Okay, there's two trees. And then in this other one, you have also the same kind of appearance, these here, okay? Now, her complaint is that she's had to trim them down. Hold on a minute.
Hold on.
That she's had
It's-
to trim them down more recently, because, people from the road can't see the signage of where it's located, all those, vendor, all those tenant, she has Dalton's, she has Subway, she has some other, tenants. I think there's a few spaces that are empty, okay? Now, this is what it looks like. I stood in the middle of the street at 3:30 on Monday, almost got run over, but you can see the view, okay?
This is the same as this?
There's,
It's really two
there's
properties.
two trees right on each side of that plaza, okay? And here's another view. But what also, she was gonna substitute two planting beds, asking the commission to cut those down. Now, and standing in the middle of the street, looking, going towards Guilford, there was clear visibility of the sign, the ground sign. However, going the other direction, there isn't. And there was a third tree planted on the corner, which you can see here, which is also going down into the gully where the stream is. I also asked wetlands about this too, because the issue here is, this is what really blocks the visibility coming from Guilford. You have to go past this and past the driveway and almost look head-on to see what's there for the plaza. So I can understand, plus this is all tangled up in the wires that serve her building and then go to the adjacent house lot on the other side of the brook. So what I would suggest, rather than cutting down trees, because she can still keep trimming them, there's a clear view going towards Guilford of the signage. You can't miss it with advance.
Blocking this.
This
is
This is, yeah. Well, this is not even blocking. When you go by this way, if you didn't have this mass here.
That's what I'm saying, this.
Yeah,
This is
this
the
area.
So the
Well,
one
why
in-
don't you show them this one
It's
too?
the one that has an X on it, it's the only one that she's looking at taking out.
Well, she's looking at taking the two that are on each side of the ground sign.
Yeah, but
These
those
two.
don't block anything.
Here's another
Only this
picture.
does.
Those don't look like they're blocking anything.
They're not.
Yeah, she said coming from this way, from the east, right, from the west, it doesn't block. Which Carol's saying is coming from the Guilford side,
Yes.
this is
it's right
blocked, but
here.
it's mainly
Yeah, I
blocked
can
by
see
this,
that.
the trees that are in this gully here. It's not this, it's not these trees.
Not these
The
two
ones she's
little
talking
ones.
about, it has nothing, it's more the trees in the gully, which has
See, the
nothing to
other
do with
two-
what she's asking
The
for.
other two trees are here and here,
Yeah, why would
and
she?
here's her
Her
ground.
problem's
Yeah, but
not,
these aren't-
her problem's
they
not
don't
the
look like
trees
they're
in front of her
being
property. It's the ones in this gully.
And are those on
I
her
gotta get
property?
going.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay. I have to.
Well, you gotta go
Well,
to the
the
pediatrician.
one thing is, if you want to go out there and take a look, my suggestion to her, and Wetlands was okay with cutting these trees down, down to the stump. They felt that the UI would be doing it because it would
The
probably be
wires.
no cost to her, that she should just, they recommended that she call them to, I mean, this is really all entangled. You can see these wires all in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So,
That could be at least a possible solution to
Yeah.
her issue of visibility. Now, if after they do that,
If
and that
she's-
takes down one of the trees that was planted in the
oh, this is.
streetscape in
this is
front of
okay.
her.
Yep.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
but this
Yeah.
is also involved. If they took those two trees, one being a scrubby thing that's growing up, then that would certainly be at least a starting point.
Is the
And if
one,
she-
is the tree in the gully on her property, or is that?
Well, you could look at that larger 11 by 17, you see where it is. I
Oh,
put
okay,
checks.
so it is.
So,
It's in the right of way.
so we kind of agree with the inland wetlands and have her contact UI and
Well,
cut those down and,
I think the whole idea, if you let her, if you agree to have those two trees right next to each side of, in the right of way.
In the right of way, but not the signage ones.
and not
Well,
the
there
ones in
are
front.
no ones on her property, except this other one that's.
These two in the front. We don't want her to touch those. We want her to touch the
Just-
ones,
Right.
in here, like you just mentioned,
Yeah,
right? Take
Yeah.
these down, but don't touch the ones in the front. The ones
well,
in
and
the front
those are in the right of way anyways. So why not take those down? And then she has clear visibility. And if at that point she's still unhappy, she can come back.
Not the ones in the
but-
front, though. We don't want her to take these down.
No,
Right, okay, that's what I was saying. Keep the
Well-
two in front, just the ones in the gully here.
yeah, on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah, the
Yeah, here.
Guilford side.
Yeah, because the other point is, if you allow one party to have those eliminated, there's other sites all the way down
We're not,
Foxton
yeah,
Road that
we don't
have
want
those.
her to take them down. We're
Those are
saying
those
no.
dwarf
No,
pear trees.
no to the ones in front, but yes to the ones in the
Fran,
gully.
you're
as the-
questioning?
No, no, it's fine, not the ones in the front there, those two,
In the
no.
gully.
Because
Yeah,
they
Ones in
don't
the
block
gully.
anything, but the ones in the corner, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally
For
not.
safe-
That's what
Safety.
Inland Wetlands is directed her to do
Okay.
as well.
So we'll have the other person come at the next time,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
I'm sorry this was so confusing. Usually I have a little bit more.
No, it's not confusing.
No, not at all.
But, you know,
Right.
here again, I think because people have been asking the question of others, that, you know, at least the commission now is aware of
Well,
the
at
issue
least
and what.
she's asking.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah, I
have somebody
agree.
on our street that took all the trees down the right of way, never asked anybody.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, just
and
like the lady
I
with
also
the
got a
picnic
call from
tables.
someone on your street as a complaint too, so, this morning, and he was very mad because he had called in over a week ago, and it was forwarded to someone, and they took no response to it, and I know he's got a valid argument and point, so.
All right, can we
I
go
don't
on to
wanna
other,
discuss- yeah.
other business?
Okay,
Regular minutes, April 17th.
okay. I have a few here in
Just
case
lost Doug.
anybody wants to
Hopefully we
see.
don't need Doug. So we just lost him.
There's Bill,
Me,
Doug,
Charlie, oh, and Fran, good.
Fran.
Yep, so we
Here,
can do it.
Here you go.
Fran,
So it's Bill,
have you seen him?
Charlie,
have.
I don't think I was here.
Yeah, you were
Fran.
not.
Yeah.
Okay, there's three of you here, so I need a motion.
I make a motion, we approve these minutes from April 17th,
Second.
2014.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved.
Okay. 3-0.
Next
Okay.
is
ZBA application, ready for that? ZBA application 2013-14-5,
This is just for,
730 Forest Road.
okay, this is just for your reference and your information. It's a variance of section 5.5 to allow the rebuilding of a structure that exceeds the 1-year time period allowed for rebuilding of a structure by regulation. And the owner applicant is 730 Forest Road LLC. This is going to be heard before the Zoning Board of Appeals on May 19th.
Is that the,
This is the
the
restaurant
place that?
renting hall, okay?
So this is really just FYI to us, right?
This is
Right.
Yeah, okay, no, I just want to
What-
understand.
What, I just want to give you some information. Their attorney, Pat Young, submitted it to the zoning enforcement officer, okay? And I just thought to keep you in the loop that you should, no, I'm not asking for you for doing a referral.
Yeah, okay.
It's not, the variance is for the extension of the period which says it should be rebuilt within 1 year. And they're saying the hardship statement, it was destroyed in the fire and spewed, and they were not able to end up in a timely manner rebuilding it. They would have been able to rebuild it if there hadn't been a prolonged investigation.
Yeah.
And
Where's
and
June?
during that long investigation, the limited fire area could have been rebuilt. The structure was sound. And then, because it was so protracted,
Snow.
then the snow helped collapse the whole structure.
Yeah.
So,
They were here,
They wanted to
That-
put condominiums in there at one, and we
Mhm.
turned them down, and they were gonna rebuild this.
We gave them some feedback.
so anyways, also,
Negative.
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So-
but then when they came back, we gave them some positive.
So I just also want to tell you, Mr. Albanese, who's the principal of that ownership, he was in yesterday meeting with the building official and the fire marshal just to review the plans with his architect, Scott Small, who had done the previous ones in which the approval was. And I said, I happened to catch him after that meeting, and, they were just asking about what code requirements would be, because it's now at a later point in time, and the building code, the fire code has changed, okay? So they discussed that, and then I bumped into Ralph Albanese afterwards, and I said, oh, and he said, yeah, I was just going over the plans that we showed them on the rebuild. And so I said, do you mind if I take a look at them? And he said, fine. And I said, well, I'd like to just keep the commission in the loop. I had told Pat Young, who had come in the other day, to pick up the signage for the notices for the ZBA. I had told him I had, as a courtesy, put this on the agenda just to keep the commission informed. And that I also said to Mr. Albanese, if you don't mind, I'd like them to be able to see what you're doing, so it's consistent with what you had before. So this is the plan, exact footprint, the same design as the existing structure was prior to the destruction of it, okay? And it's the same set that was submitted through for that special use, okay? So if you wanted to take a look, it's here, it's no different.
And we flip-flopped in
And-
the,
And this is what was built out on the upper floor, which they call the existing floor plan, okay? And the downstairs, because it will have handicapped accessibility, instead of putting another kitchen downstairs like there was, they're gonna just leave it as all open area with separate rooms for having parties down there, so that you can have handicapped accessibility. Plus, the bathrooms will be still in there where they were, okay? So on the first, the higher level, which they call like the existing floor, the principal floor when you walk from the front of the building. They have the same kind of layout as what they had before. Male and female bathrooms, and then on the other side, a kitchen. And then they would have the open area, and when you entered in, there was coat rooms and a raised platform, and they put the little bar over here. It used to be right in this area here. So
Okay.
that's just
So
a minor
they'll
adjustment.
come back and submit, submit
Well,
formally
I
and
said
everything
to
else?
Mr. Albanese, I said, well, if it's just a rebuild and you're doing everything exactly the same footprint, and the parking area is gonna be the same, I said, I'd like to be able to, at this point, ask the commission informally what they think they can do, whether they just need to look at the overall thing and not a new application, because it's rebuilding the same thing. But I said, maybe just an administrative review by the commission and just say, okay, I'm okay to give me permission to sign off on the zoning.
But we would want to see like elevations and stuff, don't we, just to see the
Well,
outside
It would,
look,
okay,
you know?
well,
Didn't we? I
it'd
thought
probably be the
We're
same.
curious about the outside look as well.
Well, if they're still having that little,
Yeah, so they are, yeah.
Little
the
tower,
jut thing, okay, and,
silo.
the silo, yeah. So, and they're still having the same roof line. So what I can do is download a picture of what I have of this, you know, as it existed before, and just bring that along with these plans and the site plan, and have him confirm to you that this is what he's laying out and agreeing to maintain. Okay, so then you can just administratively say you've reviewed it and it's okay for me to sign off on the building permit and the zoning permit,
Makes sense.
okay?
I don't even know whether we need our blessing.
Well, that's the other thing
Because
I'm asking.
normally, they come in,
Yeah.
are gonna rebuild the same thing, and you
Right.
sign off on it.
Yeah,
And
well,
you-
that's why I'm asking. I just don't want to have him go through any extra hurdles. If it makes sense to you, based on what I see is the same identical thing being built
Right.
out.
Just let them
Um,
do it.
And, you know, here again, they showed me this plan today.
And downstairs is gonna be like banquet halls, but no
Yep.
kitchen.
No kitchen.
So they're gonna run the food
Yeah,
upstairs,
Upstairs.
downstairs.
right, right.
Dumb waiter, maybe.
Yeah, probably. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
think significant
I mean,
changes,
that's
maybe
the
we
other
see it, but-
option. If you
Right.
want
Yeah,
to
maybe they
say,
could show us a drawing of the building,
yeah,
just show it to us, but give them the okay ahead of
well,
time.
just maybe under my planner's report, if that's
Yeah.
what you want, instead of having any kind of,
Yeah.
just so that you're in the loop, that you know what's happening, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I just don't want to assume that everything's okay, because, you know, we've had other issues with other planners that, you know, they signed off on things and it wasn't right, okay?
We trust you, that's it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, since it's the same footprint, the rest of it's all the
Yeah.
building official and the fire marshal.
well, I thought it was a good time to speak
Yeah.
about it and just get a clear understanding. So he has a clear understanding too. I think everybody wants to be efficient in, you know, moving this along, because it's been very
Yeah,
long
and have a
time.
banquet hall back in town.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so
So,
scheduling next meetings, I don't think I'm here the 5th of June. Anyone else not?
I'm not here.
You're not here June 5th either?
No, 5th,
I'm actually be traveling back. I actually may have landed by then, but I just don't know if I'll be here at the meeting. I was
Well,
gonna say I'm a no at this
that
point.
ends up saying also one thing. We do have one application that I was going to schedule for June 5th. It can be pushed forward if you like. This is a zone change and it was recommended in the Plan of Conservation and Development for the property on Don Capelli's land, which is on Tucket Road and Foxen Road, that corner. He has a front strip of B1 zone, and, you know, this is where the trailer park
Oh, yeah,
is,
that's,
and also he had bought the adjacent piece up above that he has someone interested in the possible development of the corner. It's been forwarded to, through Kurt, to have a memo to the town council regarding the possibility of extending the sewer existing from Woodchase development down to this area, down to Tuckett Road, that short distance, and putting a pump station on the property so that he can service that piece that's on the corner and make sure the zoning is enough so that the rest of the trailer park, which is non-conforming anyways, be changed over. Because that was one of the things in that plan of development. And to change that whole block, which would be the next piece too, which he then would take his air conditioning place and build his office over at the next property up the street that he owns, okay? So there's a potential of, in the future, the ability to have the sewers which he needs and to serve that corner so that he could have a commercial development.
How big is that corner?
Well, the site, I'm trying to think. The area that can be buildable, he's going to combine, and I think it's close to like 3 or 5 acres. And then he's got another piece up further. And then some of the frontage onto Tuckett Road, obviously, that's the part that goes from the trailer, that's part of the trailer people. That's where the pump station would be, within the wooded area. So with that, knowing both of you are not going to be here.
When you say move up, you mean May 15th then?
Well, no,
Move up, like up.
no, the other
The other
direction.
way, yeah, that's right.
Because
The 9th.
I was, originally, because now we have to go through to get the sewer, to get the town council to agree, the Water Pollution Authority to, do this possible scenario and prove this kind of scenario. May 15th would be too fast
Right.
track.
Are you here
So
on the
he
19th?
said, well, June 5th would be fine, but, he said, within that
Yeah.
time frame. So maybe the
19th?
following,
June 19th, I mean, as far as you know, you're.
As far as I know.
June 19th.
Sounds-
Because I'd rather have, at least, and I'm
Four
not,
of us
I'm
are-
not sure about Doug, but at least
have
4 of you to sit.
Maybe Harry will be back.
Because the zone changes, especially for, it's going to be 2 pieces of property. People are going to be wondering, and I don't want a simple majority voting.
We'll have 4, we'll see if Doug's around.
Okay, so,
Doug's usually around, unless he's.
yeah, so
Vacation.
we'll schedule that application.
Graduation.
Yeah, it's getting close.
What are we changing it to?
No, just
Pardon?
bringing it up on the
It's a
19th.
B1 now?
No, the rear part is all R40,
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
okay?
He wants
Your
to change it
complex.
up.
If I had the map with me, I could just,
That's
Don't worry
okay,
about
that's
it, we'll
okay.
do it on the 19th. We just want to schedule it, that's all.
if you want some information as to where, it's this thing here, okay? It's this
I
here,
know where it is.
and it's this too.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to pass that down, it's where I have the dot and the squiggly mark.
Dot squiggly.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so it's the lots behind the one on Route 80.
Do you want me to get the map?
No.
Do you want me to get the map?
No.
Okay.
We're just
Close enough for good work.
just talking when we're going to be around to hear it,
Yeah.
that's all.
It's behind the old
Okay.
house on the corner.
So, there's no problem with putting it, you have an application, you have 65 days for a hearing on an application to set it for hearing, so that
Yeah.
doesn't cause
Okay,
the
good.
commission a problem.
I thought it was
All right,
yours
what
on
else?
Route
And
80.
then,
Really?
May 15th, who's going to be here? I hope everyone?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yep.
Okay. So, let me just say, it's too far out to talk about July 10th, so hopefully, when we get closer, I know people have plans sometimes on 4th of July for extended weekends and into the next week.
4th of July is
So
a Friday.
if you know, if you got something scheduled, let me know, because obviously, now that we have a major application, June 19th,
Mhm.
I want to make sure if it doesn't get acted on that night and we have to have a
Right.
carryover, we at least know when we can
I'm here.
have it taken up again.
I know that.
Okay, there's no application, municipal referrals. Development update, I still didn't get you those copies on the sample ones from what other towns did on the medical marijuana. I could still keep that on for next time. On the update of North Branford Center Design Yale Group study, that May 12th is not going to work because there's a conflict with another town meeting that some of the town council have to be at.
Heard
So
that
then
brought
they-
up at the town council meeting, and I thought,
Yeah.
and I think the manager said, well, we'll just do it after. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh boy. What
They
time
were
you
having
gonna-
a
What time are you gonna
permanent-
start this meeting?
permanent- yeah,
I'm not coming out at
permanent
8 o'clock
project
at night
building
to start a
committee.
meeting.
That's the important meeting, so, then the, Professor Plattis couldn't make it the next day, May 13th. Planning and zoning obviously is May 15th. So then now it's pushed out according to the schedule that the Yale people have to June 2nd.
June 2nd.
So.
Oh, I'm not here.
You're not there too? Charlie and you are both not available? It's a Monday,
It might be available.
so you're not going to be
Because we
here.
leave Tuesday,
I'm
so
going that
whether we're
whole-
getting ready for.
Yeah, I'm gone that whole week, so.
So
Too bad.
Charlie is questionable. Okay.
So you just keep us in the loop on
Yeah.
what's going on.
Fran,
there.
do you think you might?
I'll be
Okay.
So June 2nd.
Yep, I'll give you
Okay.
further notice.
Good. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Make a
Move we
motion.
adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We adjourn.